No upgrade, no visible shift. What changed was how long I stayed out. At first, it was accidental, a ride that stretched past sunset because I lost track of time. Then another where the sky went fully dark before I realized how far I'd gone. Eventually, night riding became its own ritual. Night doesn't behave like day. The road narrows. Sounds travel farther. Your thoughts stop bouncing and start lining up. Streetlights turned the asphalt into a repeating pattern of light and shadow, like the road was breathing. Every patch of darkness felt deeper than it really was. Every illuminated stretch felt temporary. That contrast sharpened me. During the day, I rode on instinct. At night, I rode on awareness. You listen more. You anticipate instead of reacting. You feel the machine instead of commanding it. The bike taught me patience that way. I learned how to wait inside motion. There were nights I rode just to cool off after arguments that never fully happened. Conversations that stayed polite on the surface but bruised underneath. Nights when silence at home felt heavier than noise. The engine became a translator for things I didn't have words for yet. Not anger, pressure. The kind that builds when you're becoming something but don't know what shape you're supposed to take. I'd ride out to the edge of town where houses thinned and fields started, where the road lost its painted confidence and turned into something older, rougher. Sometimes I'd pull over and kill the engine completely. No music, no phone, just the ticking sound as metal cooled. In those moments, I didn't think about the future. I didn't replay the past. I just existed. That might sound small. It wasn't. Most people never practice existing without justification. One night, I met someone else on the road. Not literally at first. I noticed the headlights behind me long before they caught up. Another bike. Bigger. Louder. Confident in a way mine wasn't. They didn't pass. They stayed back. Matched speed. Respected space. For miles, we rode like that. Two separate lives sharing the same strip of pavement. No words. No signals. Just presence. Eventually, we stopped at the same gas station. He was older. Helmet scuffed. Jacket worn thin in places that mattered. He nodded once. I nodded back. No names, no stories. He asked, "Night treating you okay?" I said, "Yeah." That was enough. We rode together for a while after that, not racing, not showing off, just moving. I learned something riding behind him. Experience doesn't rush. It doesn't prove, it settles. He took turns smoothly, left space, never braked suddenly, trusted the road but didn't challenge it. I mirrored that without realizing it. When we eventually split, there was no goodbye. Just a turn taken differently. And somehow, that felt right. As months passed, I started noticing how the bike had changed how I walked through the rest of my life. I listened more before responding. I didn't rush decisions just to escape discomfort. When something felt unstable, I didn't panic. I adjusted. Friends noticed before I did. "You're calmer," one said once. Like, not bored, just steady. I didn't know how to explain that steadiness wasn't a personality trait. It was practiced. Every ride reinforced it. Every mistake corrected gently instead of dramatically. The bike never yelled at me. It responded. Eventually, there came a day I didn't ride for a week. Then two. Then longer. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. That scared me more than any near miss ever had. I thought needing the bike meant strength. Letting it go felt like weakness. Until I realized something deeper. I hadn't stopped riding because the feeling was gone. I'd stopped because it had transferred. The balance I practiced on the road lived in my body now. The awareness lived in my timing. The confidence lived in restraint. When I did ride again, it felt different. Not desperate, not hungry, grateful, like visiting an old place that helped raise you. Years later, when everything looked different on the outside, I still carried it. In how I approached risk, in how I respected momentum, in how I understood that control isn't domination. It's cooperation. That lesson started with something small, a mini bike, a driveway, a willingness to fall without quitting. And every time you start noticing the spaces between things more than the things themselves. The pause at a stop sign before the engine settles. The half second where the bike leans and decides whether it trusts you. The quiet stretch after you shut the motor off when the world hasn't rushed back in yet. Those moments weren't empty before. You just never stayed long enough to hear them. There's a morning when you ride with no destination at all, not even a loose one. No, I'll turn back when. No mental checkpoint, just movement. The city feels different when you stop using it. When you stop treating roads like instructions, you drift through side streets, then narrower ones, then roads that feel more like suggestions than plans. The bike doesn't complain. It never has. You pass a closed diner with sun-bleached menus still taped to the window. You remember eating there once. Or maybe you remember remembering it. Hard to tell. Memory blurs when you stop rehearsing it. The engine vibrates just enough to remind you it's there, not enough to demand attention. You like that balance. You think about how much of your life used to be noise. Even silence felt loud then, because it was loaded, because it waited for something to happen. This silence doesn't wait, it just exists. You pull off near a stretch of land that looks like it used to matter. Concrete pads, faded lines. No sign explaining anything. You sit on the bike, feet down, engine idling, and imagine the place at full speed. Busy, crowded, necessary. You shut the engine off. It feels right to let it rest here. You sit on the ground instead of the seat, back against the tire, hands resting in your lap. You don't check your phone. You don't track time. You let your thoughts arrive without interrogating them. You realize how often you've been negotiating with yourself, convincing, justifying, explaining why you deserve a break or a risk or a moment of ease. The bike never asked for justification. It only asked for presence. When you stand back up, your legs feel heavy, not tired, grounded. You ride again. The day stretches. You don't. At some point, you cross a bridge you don't remember choosing. Water below, moving steadily, unconcerned with your timing. You slow, lean over slightly, watch the surface distort reflections. You think about flow, not the motivational kind, the physical one. Movement without commentary. You wonder how many times you interrupted yourself before, how often you stopped mid-thought because it felt unproductive or unimportant. Riding doesn't interrupt, it continues. Later, you stop at a gas station that feels stuck in a different decade. You don't need fuel, you just need a moment under fluorescent lights. You stand next to the bike and notice the way people glance at it. Quick looks, confused looks, the kind reserved for things that don't fit a category. You don't explain it, you don't defend it, you don't feel the need to. On the ride home, the sky turns orange without warning. The light changes everything. Edges soften. Even the city looks forgiving. You slow down. Let the bike hum lower. You don't want to rush past this. That night, you clean the bike more carefully than usual, not because it's dirty, because you enjoy the process now, the repetition, the attention. You realize something quietly unsettling. You're not using the bike to escape your life anymore. It's becoming part of it. Days stack, weeks stretch. The bike becomes familiar in a way people usually reserve for routines they don't question, like breathing. One afternoon, something unexpected happens. You leave the bike at home, on purpose. You walk instead. At first, it feels wrong, like forgetting something important. But as you move, you notice you're walking differently, straighter, slower, more aware of your feet. You realize the bike taught you that too, how to inhabit your body again. When you ride the next day, it feels different, not worse, richer, like you brought something back with you. You start recognizing the pattern, ride, absorb, carry it forward. You stop chasing the feeling, you let it show up when it wants. There's a night where the engine cuts out unexpectedly while you're moving. No warning, just silence. Momentum carries you a few feet, then stillness. You don't panic, you coast to the side, stand the bike, breathe. You sit there longer than necessary, listening to the city at night, distant sirens, wind through wires, someone laughing somewhere you can't see. You realize how much trust you've built, not just in the bike, in yourself. You fix the issue easily, a loose connection, nothing dramatic. You laugh again. It's happening more often now. Not big laughs, small releases. On the ride home, you think about how fragile things really are, not in a scary way, in a respectful way, like understanding the weight of glass without fearing it. You park the bike and don't immediately go inside. You sit on the steps, helmet beside you, hands resting on your thighs. You feel aligned, not improved, aligned. You don't feel the need to tell anyone. That's how you know it's real. Later, lying in bed, you think about the future for a moment. Just a moment. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel urgent. It feels open. And somewhere in the quiet, you understand something you didn't before. You didn't lose yourself. You paused. And now, slowly, deliberately, you're pressing play again. The mini bike waits. It always will, not as a reminder of who you were, but as proof that movement doesn't need permission.